Welcome to the Business Facilities Podcast, where we're focused on discussing strategies that help business owners, corporate site selectors, and site selection consultants make the best location decisions for their companies and clients. I'm your host, Ann Cosgrove, Editorial Director of Business Facilities, and our topic today is the marine industry in North Carolina. North Carolina's marine industry is a vibrant, thriving one, where companies involved in commercial fishing, boat building, and the bevy of supporting products and services find a profitable place to operate. Today, I'm joined by Carl Reese. He's the Manager of Economic and Community Development for Electricities of North Carolina, and Bob Peel. He's the Director of the Wanchese Marine Industrial Park, which is part of the North Carolina Marine Industrial Authority. And he'll share with you some of the latest developments for this industry within the state. Hello, Carl. Hello, Bob.
Good afternoon.
Hello, Ann, Bob. Good to be with you both today.
Yes.
Great. Wonderful. Looking forward to this talk. Carl, first, I wanted to mention that this is the second conversation in Business Facilities four-part series with Electricities of North Carolina. In February, we spoke with you and the Golden Leaf Foundation about how your two organizations are working together to support North Carolina businesses. So what is new with Electricities since we last spoke? Can you give us a quick update?
Of course, I'm happy to, Ann. So North Carolina has been extremely fortunate over the last few years to benefit from multiple very large and some smaller industrial office headquarters investments from companies both in North America and around the world. There's many reasons why that has happened, and a lot of people that have worked very hard to make that happen. Among the reasons are that we have a very business-friendly environment here with low corporate taxes and other benefits. We have a wonderful workforce here. We're a fast-growing state with a lot of people moving into our state. But one of the other key factors in those decisions to locate in North Carolina has been the fact that we have quality-ready sites that companies can get in, be where they want to be, and build their facility or go into an existing facility as quickly as possible and begin manufacturing or providing whatever services it is that's important to them. So we have to be constantly vigilant, constantly working to make sure that we replenish that supply of quality sites across the state. Electricities is part of a much larger effort to do that, but we are an important cog in that work. And for us recently, we've been working on some very interesting sites, a couple of rail sites, one 375-acre rail site in the eastern part of the state that's served by CSX Rail, and another 100-plus acre site in the foothills of North Carolina that's served by Norfolk Southern. That site is interesting because it's very difficult to develop large rail sites in the foothills or the mountains. And so the fact that we've been able to put that together in Burke County, Drexel, North Carolina, is really quite an asset for that entire region. And then, as we'll discuss some today with Bob a little later, we have worked for many years with a number of different partners on developing an extremely unique asset, which is a marine industrial park. And I don't want to spoil Bob's thunder. I'm sure he'll talk about some of that. But there are not a lot of these floating around North Carolina, or pun intended there, or around the U.S. in general. So a wonderful asset. All of these are served by Electricities members, North Carolina Public Power. So just very good, solid, fundamental work that we've been doing to help North Carolina continue to be attractive to business and industry.
That's great, thank you. And I do look forward to talking about that new marine asset that you had just mentioned. So we will thank you, Carl, and we'll jump right into it with Bob now. So Bob, again, thank you for joining us. We're glad to have you here to talk about the marine industry and what North Carolina is offering these businesses from your viewpoint. So let's get into it. Can you briefly, Bob, just to give our listeners a little bigger picture of what your role is in the industry and with the authority, what is the role of the North Carolina Marine Industrial Park Authority? How does it support the marine industry? And what would companies listening be interested to learn about that?
Well, thank you for having me on today.
Of course.
The role of the North Carolina Marine Industrial Park Authority is really very simple. It's to promote, enhance, and offer business opportunities for marine-related businesses up and down the North Carolina coast and actually throughout the state. And the authority does that in a number of ways. We operate two facilities ourselves, but we also help the state oftentimes in the recruitment of marine businesses into North Carolina. We attend trade shows and promote North Carolina as a site for businesses. And we assist other counties or municipalities when they're talking about or trying to design a site for a marine company. Sometimes we're called in to help just to give some advice and share what we've learned here in our facilities with those counties or municipalities. So, we try to help any way we can. That's what we're here for.
Thank you. And can you just quickly share, I know you are the director of the Wanchese Marine Industrial Park. Can you quickly share the facilities that are under the authorities?
Yes, absolutely. There's the Wanchese Marine Industrial Park here in Dare County on Roanoke Island. The facility here actually opened in 1981, was basically leased out by 2005, I believe. It's 50 acres of land with a man-made 15-acre basin, which is extremely important. And today there are 26 or 7 businesses here, about 350 people coming in every day to work. And we have a real mix of businesses here, but everything is marine related. So we have marine cabinetry, carpentry, upholstery, outboard engine repair and sales, diesel engine repair and sales, boat building. We have 6 little boat building companies here in the facility. It's really anything that you think of when you think of the marine industry is here. So the Wanchese facility, I'm really happy to say, is off state budget and paying its way on a day-to-day basis, and has an annual impact to the state of over $100 million a year. So that's kind of the Wanchese is the flagship, if you will, of the 2 sites. However, Englehart is a really nice, unique site also. That's down in Hyde County, and the Englehart Marine Industrial Park is much smaller. It's only about 8 acres in size, and we're still working to develop that. But we have a couple of tenants there now, and would like to put up another building here soon. So we're working on still working on both facilities, trying to maintain what we have in Wanchese and then develop Englehart further.
And we'll talk about Perquimans, the newest marine park. We'll get into that a little later, I think, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, ma'am.
Perfect. So let's take a broader view for a moment. The marine industry in the state of North Carolina has a rich history, documented back to at least the late 17th century. We know it, of course, goes before that. And what I wanted to ask you is, with the state's natural geography advantages, the Atlantic coast, the extensive waterways, inland as well, how has this history made the marine industry what it is today in the state? And what would you say are maybe some initial assets or traditions that still exist that are keeping the marine industry so thriving within the state?
Well, the same geographical assets that we had centuries ago are still here, and that is we have a coastline that sticks out into the Atlantic and gets fishermen you can get to rich fishing grounds offshore very quickly and easily. That's crucial. We also have the Albemarle and Pamlico Sounds. We have the second largest sound system, I think, in the United States here, which are great fishing grounds. But we also have, so we have a population here too that's used to being on the water, near the water, and working on the water. So those are assets that we still take advantage of today.
That's great, and I'm glad that you mentioned the population being so used to being near the water, working on the water, living on the water. Because I did want to talk about workforce. Of course, that's so important to all industries, really, and of course to this industry we're talking about. So with that so ingrained in the state of North Carolina, can you talk a little bit about the workforce here? You mentioned how I think you said 350 people come into your park each and every day to work. So how is the workforce uniquely qualified to work in the marine industry? And maybe, more to the point, would you share some examples of workforce development and training programs, other assets that are keeping the workforce in your state, ready to work for companies?
I think the best way to answer that is tell you what I mentioned to companies that are looking at North Carolina as a potential site. for
Okay.
a marine company. And that is the first thing I always mention is that the marine industry is, in quotations, in our blood here. It's part of us. It's been such a big part of our history. If you look at, say, the commercial fishing industry, for example, that dates back centuries, you had all these people making a living off the water. And if you think back, before we had the road system that we have and the bridge system that we have, mail, people, commerce all happened, all were delivered on our waterways. So the waterways have always been a vital part of our economy, certainly along the coast, but also inland. So it's a huge, important part of what we are and who we are. And so our kids and our people grow up or live near or on the water. They're either enjoying the water recreationally or they're out there working on it. So again, that whole marine industry, which is what I would call water-based economic activity, is kind of ingrained in our citizens from a very early age. So, and when you talk about workforce being or the industry being in our blood, our folks naturally want to work in industries that they're interested in. So if they're growing up on the water or spending time on the water recreationally, they're naturally going to want to work in an industry that is of interest to them because of what they do on their private time. So.
And now I understand that there's community college programs and probably others that are helping to facilitate and foster this interest or these skills. Are you familiar with any of those programs? And I mean, have you seen those in action?
Yeah, a few of them. I mean, the second thing I always tell companies is we can train individuals for your industry. So if you look around, North Carolina is blessed with probably one of the best community college systems of any state in the country. So if you look along in our community colleges along the coast, for example, I mean, Beaufort County has a boat building program at their community college. Carteret County, further down the coast, has a nice boat building program at their community college that has drafting and has outboard engine repair and stuff involved there. Even Manio High School here on Roanoke Island has a boat building program in the high school. And these types of programs are really all over the state. Now, they may not be specifically boat building. They may be welding. Well, my gosh, the marine industry needs and depends on welding in a big way all the time. So, I mean, our community college system is training individuals with skills that are desperately needed in the marine industry. So that's one of the great things about our state, the community college system. And then we have the North Carolina Department of Commerce, for example, has a program, I think it's called NC Edge now, where they will fund training programs in the community college system where it's customized training. So, for example, if a boat company moves to North Carolina, we had this happen in Wanchese a couple of years ago. Boat company moves to North Carolina and they need very specific training on, say, a new process. The example in Wanchese, it was vacuum infusion stuff. So the money came through the community college to hire a specific instructor to come into the state and teach that process to that company's staff at almost no cost to the company. So that NC Edge program, that's a great program. And so the state has programs that help. The community college system is all over the state and is always willing to help with training for industries in their region. So we have, I think, workforce is an issue all over the country. Everybody will tell you it's hard to find employees. But when you come into an area where the people want to work in the industry, again, it's part of our blood. It's part of who we are. It's in our blood. Then I don't worry so much about workforce with marine companies as long as they pay a fair wage. I think we can find them employees.
Okay, so Bob, a number of established boat manufacturers are located in North Carolina. To mention a few, Grady White, Hatteras, and Regulator, and there are more, of course. Can you talk about the operations that these or maybe one or two other companies have in the state that you've seen in your experience, where how they've been able to innovate, grow, expand by dint of being in North Carolina, maybe some of the successes they've been able to achieve in North Carolina?
Well, yeah, and there are boat building companies all over the state, even away from the coast. Inland has got boat building companies too. So I will say about our North Carolina boat builders, they seem to be innovators. They have always been willing to try new technologies, new processes to try to improve the boat building that they do. It's pretty amazing. And quite honestly, I don't like to just call them boat builders. I like to refer to them as craftsmen, because what they're doing takes a lot of skill, and some of these boats are literally works of art, in my opinion. But I'm kind of biased. But and it's again, being on the coast or inland and having water nearby is a great way to test new theories on how to improve boats. You go out and test things, and so most of our boat builders are always testing new ideas, and also they are always tweaking the design of the boats. I don't know of a single boat builder that comes up with a design of a boat in North Carolina and then builds that same boat for 20 years and never changes it. That's unheard of. They are constantly trying to improve. Either down here in Wanchese, it's always they're doing things to try to get more speed, for example. I mean, and so there's always the successful boat builders we have in North Carolina, and we have a bunch of them, are always working to improve their product and try innovative things. Propulsion's a good example. Independent propulsion systems were new 10 years ago, and now they're being put on boats, pretty sizable boats and all. So our guys are innovators. They're always trying to improve their product.
So let's talk about the sites where these companies are able to do this type of work that you're talking about. We did talk a little bit about the state's Marine Industrial Authority and the facilities. So I did want to take the chance to talk to you before we close out about the Perquimans Marine Industrial Park. I understand that's relatively very new asset from the marine industry.
Yeah, and as I said earlier, one of the things that we do, the North Carolina Marine Industrial Park Authority, is assist other communities when they want to build a site, or whatever. We offer our insight on it may be the design, or in the case of Perquimans, we're trying to help market the site. We actually have an MOU with the county. The Perquimans site is really amazing and unique these days. The idea may not be so unique. The fact, though, that it's the only site that I know of on the East Coast, and I can't really name you any on the Gulf Coast either, where they're building an upland basin. And so instead of being on a river or a body of water and extending docks out into the river where it can get rough, and you're limited in how much you can do out in the river, at Perquimans, they're actually digging a basin into the site. And they've got a 16-acre basin, permitted for that site. That's huge. So what does a basin give you? Well, a basin first provides stability and safety. Calm water inside the basin is kind of like a protected harbor. So boat owners love that, boat builders love that, marine businesses love that. It allows you to have activity. You can have buildings and things right on the shoreline of the basin. So the workers and everybody can get close to the boats they may be working on, because the boats can be in the water a lot of times. And it just allows you to maximize, and here's the key thing, it allows you to maximize the number of docks you can have available for business patrons. So you can put finger piers out into a basin, put docks off of each side out at the end, and it allows you to just, it brings more boats into the facility, and boats, mean activity, and activity means jobs and money turning over. And the example of that is the Wanchese facility. Wanchese is pretty successful, I like to think, but it's not because of the land, it's because of the water. We have water access and lots of docks. And lots of docks mean lots of marine activity. So if you ask any boat company, would you like to be near the water or on the water? They're always going to say we have to have water access. And if we can get our boat building facility right up there near the water, that's the best scenario ever. And in Perquimans, they can do that. So Perquimans has built the first 4.5 acres, and the county's done a wonderful job getting that done. It's a beautiful site. It is absolutely the prettiest marine site that I know of on the East Coast right now. And they're just getting started. But they have available space right now on a bulkheaded shoreline on a protected, safe harbor. And that is rare these days, very rare. So I think Perquimans County is going to take off. That site, once word gets out about that site, it is so unique, and it is what every marine company wants. Access to the water and docks.
That's great. And that we'll look forward to seeing the developments that do occur in the park. And of course, encourage our listeners who are in the industry to check it out for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So now, just in closing too, just to kind of bring the lens out just for a last comment, I wanted to ask you about the evolution of the industry. What's a development you might see coming in the next few years, or maybe that you're seeing with your work with the tenants in your park? For instance, you mentioned independent propulsion as being new, about a decade ago. Is there anything you're seeing on the horizon that that folks are that we might see or are seeing now?
Yes, and I will say that, like I said earlier, North Carolina boat builders in the industry and all, they're always innovating and always trying new things. 5-6 years ago, we didn't have a lot of boat parts here in Wanchese being made with CNC machines. Now that's happening. That's happening quite a bit. The use of materials, using composite materials that are as strong or stronger than wood or natural materials, but are much lighter. Again, that idea of going for more speed. We're seeing that in every boat shop. Didn't used to see that as much. So I think the future we're talking about, and this sounds a little crazy, but I think it's going to happen, 3D printing of parts for boats. Okay. Very cool. Electric propulsion is being looked at and actually worked on quite a bit, and is starting to get a lot of attention. It's already getting a lot of attention in Europe, and we're seeing more and more of that when I go to boat shows here along the East Coast in the United States. Hydrogen fuel, which will lower carbon footprints, and they're actually they had a couple of outboards. There was a company that had outboards that ran off of some kind of hydrogen fuel at a boat show last year. So that's a sustainable fuel, almost no carbon footprint. Very new technology, but it's coming. So there's always a lot going on. There's always a lot going on in the marine industry to try to improve the products.
That's great. And so much going on in North Carolina. So that's awesome.
Everything I mentioned is going on in North Carolina to some degree. Maybe not the hydrogen stuff. Well, actually, no. The hydrogen stuff, there's a company that's looking at that in North Carolina too. So
Great. Well, thank you, Bob. I really appreciated this conversation. It's been very eye-opening, and I'm sure our listeners have enjoyed it as well and learned a thing or two. So thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
And listeners, to learn more about Electricities of North Carolina and its opportunities, including the Perquimans Marine Industrial Park, visit their website at electricities.com/econdev. Carl and I will talk again for the next installment of this 4-part series with business facilities, and that next installment will be released in the fall. Thank you.